welcome back to my channel. So today I've decided to finally do a very glittery makeup look. So many of you have asked me to do one for ages. Every time I've done a review and I've been wearing some glitter and you've said, can you please do a glitter tutorial, or you've asked me to recreate one of those, and I just find it very difficult to wear the same makeup every day. So I wanted to do something very unique and special, and first time I've ever done it, and that is this makeup look that I've come up with. I've kind of used different types of glitter. I've layered purple onto gold on top of purple. I wanted to kind of go with the theme of my jumper, which I got from Zara. I think it's still available now. And I'm just using a whole bunch of new makeup. I'm using some new lipsticks. I'm using the Jeffree Star 24 Karat Pro palette as well, and using some of the Colourpop Supernova eyeshadows. So this is a very kind of party, glittery, going out makeup look. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.
Hello everybody, so first I'm going to prime my eyes using the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion in the shade Enigma, followed by the primer water by Primark, which is for priming your face to keep your foundation in place all day. Just pat it in because it's the water. And then I'm using the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter foundation. The shade that I'm using is 300, and I use about a pump and a tiny little bit just to dot it all over my face. That's enough to give me coverage all over, and then I normally add a tiny little bit onto my cheeks because that's where I've got extra pigmentation that needs covering. And then I am blending it all in with my usual foundation brush, the Morphe M439 Deluxe buffing brush. I'm just blending it all into my skin so that I've got a nice matte, flawless finish. And then I'm doing my eyebrows off camera. My brow routine is below, by the way, so you guys can watch it. Now to highlight and conceal, I'm using Urban Decay's All Nighter Concealer in the shade Medium Dark Warm, and then followed by Medium Neutral afterwards. That conceals and highlights at the same time. And then I'm using I think it's a Real Techniques beauty blender. It's not the normal one, and I'm just using a damp one to blend it all in. This concealer gives amazing coverage, so I basically pretty much have been using it every day since I bought it. Then to set it all, I'm using the Marc Jacobs Mirage Filter Light Filtering Contour Powder, and I'm using a Real Techniques contour brush just to set all of the concealer that you saw, followed by the NYX HD powder in Banana to set the concealer around my eyebrows, and then to completely neutralize and mattify my eyelids so that they are prepped and nice and soft, so that eyeshadow will glide on beautifully afterwards. Then I'm using the Peach Perfect Translucent Setting Powder, Peach Powder by Too Faced. I'm applying it with a large powder F30 brush by Sigma just to set my foundation. Then I'm using the You Had Me at Hello eyeshadow palette by Colourpop, and I'm using the shade called The Knot to apply it to my brow bone so that it's nice and highlighted. Next, I'm using the shade Winning Ticket, and I'm using a new brush of mine. It's the Anastasia Beverly Hills A12 blending brush. It's an amazing brush, and I am just blending this shade backwards and forwards in the crease, blending it out in windshield wiper motions to create a defined shade. Then to define the eye even more, I'm using the shade Look and See, and I am using exactly the same brush and applying it to the crease but lower into the crease so that the other shade is kind of peeking through, and I've done some sort of like gradient. Then I'm going to be using one of the new Supernova eyeshadows in the shade Moonlit, and I'm applying it all over the lid quite generously, blending it all out everywhere. And then what I'm going to use is a NYX brush. It's the number 10 brush. It's like a flat brush, and I am just blending out so that there are no harsh lines. I actually want the purple shimmery shade to blend up into the deeper shades above, and this is the best way I find to apply these kind of glitter eyeshadows. Then I'm going over it again with another layer because I personally find it's best applied in 2 layers because that's the way you get the most intense metallic finish. And then I'm using a Sonia Kashuk brush. It's a small dense definer brush just to blend around the edges so as not to bring the glitter up too high, but just to blend it into the eyeshadow above. Then I'm using the shade Walk of Fame, and I'm just locating the center of my eye and I've got the brush sideways just to apply it and dab it on. Then I turn it flat ways just to kind of apply it in the middle a little bit more thickly. I went in with this with 2 layers as well. I'm using the other side of the NYX brush just to blend it out. As you can see, I'm doing it around the edges so that it blends into the purple, as I don't want it to be a very obvious like blob of gold on the top, but this creates a really gorgeous kind of duochrome spotlight eye. Then for my eyebrows, I'm using Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Gel, which is clear, which I always do after eyeshadow to define my brows further, to keep them neat and tidy and crisp all day long. And then I'm going to be using my NYC Liquid Liner, which is my favorite liquid eyeliner of all time. I use it all the time, and I'm just basically lining my eyes and winging it out as I always do. I go in quite heavily, especially when I'm wearing glitter or anything glitter related, just so that it covers it up. Then I'm using the Mega Multiplier Mascara by Revlon just to prep my eyelashes before I apply my falsies, which are my Huda Beauty Lana eyelashes, and I've applied it with duo glue, and I use my normal, you know what guys, you need to recommend me one eyelash applicator, because it's really stupid that I use 2. I use tweezers as well as a smaller applicator, and it's kind of long. So can you like recommend me a decent one below so that I can look into it? Anyway, back to the tutorial. So yeah, I'm just lining up my eyelashes. These ones are very, very long. They're not wispy, they're just very long eyelashes. Then I'm using that same shade Look and See again, and I'm going into my lower lash line with a Royal & Langnickel Pro Blender brush. And then I'm using the shade Sparks Fly, and I'm just going into the corner of my lash line to create a bit more definition. Then I'm using the Rimmel Scandaleyes Kohl Kajal in the shade of black, as I always do on my waterline. This is what I do on every single tutorial. And then I'm using my Maybelline the Falsies mascara, as I always do for my bottom lashes. Hello, fluttery lashes, hey. Now for the rest of my face, I'm using the contour shade of the Marc Jacobs contour powder, and I'm using a Sigma large angled F40 brush to carve out my face. This is always best to do depending on how heavily you want to do it or how defined you want to be. It's just because when you apply foundation to your face, it makes your face very flat. So contouring your face, contouring your nose and whatnot just creates definition and makes your face look a little bit more realistic and less flat. So I do around my nose quite lightly. I don't contour my nose too much because I don't really feel that I need to. Under my chin, because I haven't been going gym recently, and I swear there's some sort of like extra chin appearing underneath there. Charlena, go to the gym, stop eating. And then I'm using the Coty Airspun powder to carve out my cheekbones using the Morphe M459 contour brush. This is just to tidy up my contour so that it looks a lot more sharp and a lot less messy. And then I am using my Real Techniques contour brush to brush it all off. I do it straight away. I don't like to bake because I find it leaves like a white cast, if that makes sense. Then I'm just using the contour brush to get rid of that harsh line that was there. Now I'm using Anastasia Beverly Hills Pool Party blush in the shade Pageant, and I'm applying it to the backs of my cheeks as I have a roundish kind of face with a Royal & Langnickel blush brush. I'm not going in as heavily as it may appear, but obviously it is up to you how heavy you want to go in on the blush. I was actually going out later on. This is actually Boxing Day I'm filming it. And then I'm using Liberace from the Pro Palette, 24 Karat Pro Palette by Jeffree Star, and I'm applying it to my cheekbones using a Morphe M310 large fan brush. This is a very gold highlight, so we're going to go in with 2 shades because obviously I've got quite a cool tone look going on, but I really like this gold shade. Then I'm using the shade Sarcophagus, and I'm going over the gold so that it mixes it into making it into a more cool toned gold with just a hint of yellowy gold underneath. And I'm using that same shade on my nose as well, because I don't want to use gold on my nose because I think it might look a bit too much. Then I calmed it down a little bit by brushing some of it off, like you can see. And then I'm using it on my Cupid's bow, which basically makes your lips look a little bit fuller. And then I'm just blending between the blush and the highlight so that there are no harsh lines. And then I forgot to do my tear duct, so I'm using the shade Moonstruck, and I'm applying it to my tear duct as a highlighting shade with a MAC, or what is it, 219? Yeah, that's it, 219 pencil brush. And then finally for the lips, I'm using Colourpop's Fragile Things Ultra Matte Lip. It's one of their new holiday collection liquid lipsticks. I love this shade. I highly recommend it. especially if you're going for quite a full-on look like I am, but you don't want really bright lips. It's a really gorgeous, like, deep mauvey, purpley sort of shade. So I'm just applying this quite slowly, because obviously if you mess up with a metallic liquid lipstick, then, or a metallic lipstick even, then you are stuffed. So just put that all over your lips, and that should complete the look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Like, comment, and make sure you subscribe. I've got more tutorials coming up in the future, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!